Hello everyone. First and foremost, a disclaimer. Even though this video will be critical of some practices present in the LEGO Universe community, I mean no offense to anyone, and please don't take the things said here personally. Before I get into the meat of this video, I feel as though I have an introduction to make. I have uploaded videos on this channel before, but it's very likely you know little about my role in the LEGO Universe community. I'm Vincent, commonly referred to as Vincent01. I'm a developer on the open source project some of you may know as Uchu. Outside of Uchu, I work on multiple smaller LU initiatives such as database editor, map utilities, and alpha server emulation. I've been a fan of LEGO Universe ever since its official release, and I've been involved in restoration efforts for about 3 years. During my time in the LU community, I've developed some views on some particular aspects of the community and as of it as a whole. In this video I will be expressing some of those views and just some other random thoughts I have, some of which may be controversial, some hopefully less so. One of the things I feel most strongly about in the LEGO Universe restoration effort, as demonstrated by my role in Uchu, is the role of open source. This is a practice and might be referred to as a philosophy by some of freely sharing code with everyone. Open source has a notoriously bad reputation with the LEGO Universe community. This reputation has been earned thanks to projects like Looney and its almighty forks, and to a lesser extent VLOS, and more recently YALOS. Heavily publicized projects which gain an audience of casual members of the community. This has led to a lot of people joining forums like Discord servers asking for how to set them up, but this is as far as most people go. But some went so far as to host public instances of these servers. These public servers, as they are commonly referred to, are often poorly managed and executed. They often go out speaking words of great promise how it's going to be this server to play on until one of the major projects rolls around. No, just stop. There's no way your Jollis instance with 2 functional missions will ever be anything else than another nail in an increasingly dangerous haystack. Despite this, how can I still think there's any hopes for executing an open source server without it going full Venture Explorer into the maelstrom? Well, first, don't hire Bob as a pilot. Secondly, don't conduct unwarranted hype. Hype is toxic to development. It puts pressure on you to always keep pushing new stuff to the server to keep up with the demand for new content. Sometimes keeping hype of your project is an active task, but most of the time it's passive. Even though you have some fancy new feature you've just implemented, don't go out of your way to tweet about it or brag to everyone in a public forum. Doing this will generate excitement and a lot of requests regarding setting things up, which can be increasingly distracting from development. This does not mean you don't want any traffic going through your project. You want to attract possible contributors. Open source is such a wonderful thing, anyone can contribute. People dropping by your public code might find it interesting and decide that it's something they want to help move forward, instead of being locked out by the wall, which is closed source. Not only can closed source discourage possible contributors, but it also doesn't help the wider LEGO Universe community. With open code, the features you implement, the breakthroughs you make, will help fuel development of repositories not just with an initial commit. Your findings can be put into public documentation, driving the development forward in the present and the future. But alright, you weigh the ups, you weigh the downs of open versus closed source, and you come to the conclusion that closed source suits you better. This is very respectable, but it doesn't mean your findings or research cannot be shared. When I first dived into the development channel in the LEGO Universe Community Hub, I'd heard it was a place where developers from all projects came to share research and discuss developments. This turned out paint a flawed picture of what they came to experience. People do often discuss their ideas and post regarding progress there, but little or nothing is said about new findings or research. Most people are content to keep their research to themselves, not releasing concepts or methods which could prove instrumental in improving the course of the development in the community as a whole. These things are kept behind closed doors for what seems to be just for the sake of it. LEGO Universe server development is not and will never be a competition within the development community. Everyone is here to achieve the same goal, which is to be able to experience LEGO Universe again. Keeping things behind locked doors of closed source helps no one, not even yourself. There is, although, one thing people keep mentioning when talking about this subject, and that is LEGO. And when we say LEGO here, we don't mean the little bricks you build with, no. We're talking about the big evil corporate entity known as the LEGO Group. Alright, they're not evil per se, but they are menacing. They're the watchful eye over the LEGO Universe community, which keeps projects in line and sparks discussion every now and then about what our limits as a community are. The LEGO Group has a public image to uphold. They're always kids-friendly image. You can see how someone running a mismanaged LEGO Universe server can play into this. It is known that in the past the LEGO Group has been in contact with some of the major LEGO Universe projects, telling them, amongst other things I will get into later, that they have to keep to the original kids' safety principles. This means moderated chat, builds, and other kinds of player interactions. The infrastructure around the original LEGO Universe servers were incredible, and incredibly expensive. For example, chat. They had a whitelist, a blacklist, a phrase check, and on top of all that, human moderation. This has been contributed as a possible reason why LEGO Universe was bleeding money at the end of its lifetime. Server emulation projects will have a hard time with this. They will have a hard time handling the influx of players which will come as part of a public release. LEGO Universe had money to work with. LEGO Universe server projects are not allowed the concept of money. They can't hire in moderators. Everything has to be done without a dime being involved. This is unfortunate, as eventually some projects might have to bite the bullet and discard some elements of player interaction. This is not without precedent, as the former LEGO minifigures online cut shut after it wasn't feasible anymore. The part about not being allowed the concept of money might have been a lie though, as projects are allowed to accept donations to finance server upkeep. This includes any hosting costs which might be involved in operating a public server. Great, then they don't have to worry about that problem. No. Most of the people who played LEGO Universe when they were kids are now growing up to have to pay for school, housing, amongst a lot of other things. They are in a time of their lives where money is short, and where they will most likely not have a coin to spare. Despite that, most people simply do not donate their hard-earned coin. Okay, what could be a possible solution for this? I think the problem lies in the concept of a public server in the first place. It's hard to believe that a small group of people, limited in their financial options, could operate a definitive LEGO Universe server. A better option, in my opinion, is letting people host their own servers, for themselves and friends. And with open source, this could allow for players to set their own restrictions on things like chat, and allow for widespread modding. Easy to host servers have their own problems though. As previously mentioned, some people have a tendency to host mismanaged public servers, something which could attract the eye of Sauron. This would hopefully be naturally mitigated by server hosting not being centralized, and any legal issues would happen on a per case basis. It could also be argued that the development of server software could not be prosecuted, as long as it doesn't include any LEGO Group properties, so distributing it would be a non-issue. This is open to much debate though. Now to putting everything into where the community is today. I'm not going to go into details about server progress here. I'll just tie the things I've said back to where we are today. I believe DLU or Dark Flame Universe has fallen into the trap of being poisoned by hype. They mentioned timeframes, which translated into deadlines, which contributed to them hosting an unstable Christmas testing session. LCDR has mentioned wanting to open source when the server is at a point where it's at a complete state. Great. What's not so great is that both of these major projects are keen on keeping their research to themselves. Finally, some closing thoughts I have about the community as a whole. I'm in love with this community, and I've gotten to know so many good people through it. Of course it's not perfect, I've got my problems with how things are done, and I'm sure most people do. But nevertheless, I have high hopes for the future of the LEGO Universe community. Thanks to everyone who stuck with me until the end, listening to this very scripted and stale video. And I'm out.